Gruesome Magazine.
Hello, once again, I'm your host, Doc Rotten, and this is Gruesome Magazine, where we review the very latest in theatrical and streaming horror films. Each week, the Gruesome Magazine Grue-Crew will take a look at very spooky, scary, and gory genre offerings. Tonight, we're reviewing The Last Breath. Available in theaters beginning July 26, 2024. You like your shark movies? You've come to the right place. Maybe not the right movie, but you've come to the right place. Also joining me this week is Crystal Cleveland, the Livi6dead6irl girl. Crystal, how you doing?
I'm fabulous. I love Julian Sands, so it was nice to see him on screen.
Yes.
That sounds really, I don't even know how that sounds. That sounds sad and
it's very somber.
I know.
Yeah, well, it is somber. Like he was such a cool dude.
Well, his last name is Sands, so I guess that's appropriate.
Oh.
It's an ocean movie.
That's fair. That's fair. Actually, the red suit he had, that was very cool. I did love that. Red's my favorite color, obviously.
There you go. Also joining this week is award-winning filmmaker Christopher G. Moore.
Well, I guess we're here to watch a shark movie.
Nice.
Yes.
Nice.
It does not get old, too. It doesn't have to.
Never.
So it's okay.
Never.
Yeah.
Every time someone says shark, I should do this.
It's gonna be a lot. It's gonna be a lot. All right. Well, we like our shark movies, don't we? Right, Grissom?
Yes, I love shark movies. They're some of my favorites for sure. Only supernatural religious horror, I think, beats it. But shark films are just they're always fun, even if they're
house
bad.
Movies. Yeah.
Well, didn't you see the shark
slasher
Exorcist?
films?
The sharks? No, I did not. Is it bad?
There's also the Amityville shark, right? In there one. Yeah, there you go. All right. What we're going to do tonight is we're going to say shark as many times as we can, so Christopher can do what Christopher does.
Myself up for this.
Yes, you sure did. We're going to start off giving our first impressions. Those first impressions will be spoiler free. Yeah, there's spoilers. Then we'll talk about the film. We'll get into some of the spoilers and the events that are happening, all the underwater nastiness, and then shenanigans, even shenanigans. And then we'll wrap things up with our score 1 to 5 and our favorite scene. Oh boy. Yes, and we hope you enjoy not only this review but many others that we have on the site. And if you do, please hit the like, subscribe, share with a friend button. Each click, that's easy and free to do, just like Christopher illustrated above. And each click will help us find more horror fans just like you. Just take a look at this card and get things going before the shark hits the fan. There we go. All right. The Last Breath, 2024 from IFC Films, available in theaters and VOD beginning July 26, 2024. Synopsis says, finding a long-lost wreck of the warship USS Charlotte has been the lifelong pursuit of Levi, played by Julian Sands, an aging expat running a tourist dive business in the British Virgin Islands, together with a recent college dropout, Noah. When the USS Charlotte emerges for the first time in 80 years after a tropical storm, Noah's friends visiting the island insist for all of them to do a once-in-a-lifetime dive on the newly discovered wreck before it's handed over to the authorities. The dream dive rapidly turns into a nightmare as they become trapped in the darkness of the Charlotte's interior 30 meters down and with dwindling air supply. And then they discover that they are not alone. Yes, directed by it was. I catch my breath. Directed by Joachim Hedin, written by Nick Saltrice. Cast includes Kim Spearman, Jack Parr, Alexander Arnold, Aaron Mullen, Arlo Carter, and Julian Sands.
Yep.
Christopher, sir, what was your first impression of The Last Breath?
Well, let me start this off by saying that, like, I do applaud them because a lot of times when people do any kind of water movies, I mean, if you've ever heard any stories about the making of Jaws, it's kind of hard to shoot on water and in water. And so this is one of those few movies where, unlike what was the movie? Was it Underwater? Was that the name of the movie? There was one of the
Kristen Stewart.
Yeah, where they shot it like dry for wet. So a lot of times they shoot these things and they don't have, a lot of times movies don't have the budget to shoot in water. So they have to fake it, you know, and most of it's inside of a ship. But here you're inside of an underwater vessel for a good probably 70% of the movie. So I do applaud them for that. Now, granted, you have the ability to shoot all this stuff underwater, but then you pick like the blandest white people to follow in a movie that's ever been created. These are the most boring characters, to where they, you know, I mean, they basically give these really sort of one-dimensional ideas of who these characters are, but I really didn't care about these characters at all. And so putting him into this environment of a shark, you know, I didn't, I mean, there's probably like a few spots where I think it gets a little bit interesting or tension filled, but first of all, it's like you have a shark, and it seems to be probably CGI for all of it, but it doesn't it doesn't grab onto stuff. It basically is a Ginsu knife. It just goes through. Oh, I got to cut him arm. Oh, I got to cut him. Oh, I'm missing a leg. It's like it does. I don't know. Like these sharks, evidently they've just. I mean, either they swallow it whole or they just go by you, and it's like, oh, I'm hurt. And I don't know if that's just all that they could afford because they've got all these different underwater sets and stuff, but it just made it kind of so, I don't know, bloodless is the right word, but it just felt like, it felt like a waste of a shark movie. And I just, if anything, it became much more annoying to where and then it became very limited in what they can do, to where, you know, it's just more like, oh, somebody got cut and they're bleeding again, you know, and then it also became sort of like the areas became very similar throughout. And what should have been sort of underwater cat and mouse game was just like a drowned mouse game for me. But yeah, and I think if anything, I'm kind of sad that this is the last movie we're going to see Julian Sands in, who's probably the only redeemable part of this whole film. He's the only one that seems to have any kind of real personality or charisma about him. But yeah, and then the first like portion of it is like the most basic exposition on who these characters are I've seen in a movie in a very long time, where it's like, oh, you know, I haven't seen you in this fairly, you know, why weren't you there for me? I mean, it felt like so on the nose dialogue, to where it was like, oh God, let's just get to the shark biting already. Cause it's just like, I'm just really annoyed by this. And it went a little bit too far. I wish we should have gotten to the water a whole lot faster. But yeah, I think Last Breath was a little bit last meh for me. I just didn't. I think it was a little bit, and it's kind of sad because to have a movie that's shot as much as it is underwater, they should have done a better job of the characters and the writing.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Crystal, what was your first impression of The Last?
Okay, so I love shark films, and I love Julian Sands, as I said already. This film, so the first like 35 minutes are definitely all just character building, and there's really nothing exciting going on except for the opening scene where they show this naval vessel going down. I guess, a little something there. I knew nothing about this film going in. So that's when you discover it's a shark film. And then you hang out with these 30-year-olds that act like they're 22 for, like I said, 35 minutes. Not the worst for sure. Okay. Don't get me wrong. This is not like super bad like films that I've seen before. They're okay. They're just kind of annoying and immature, and it doesn't feel grounded or realistic. But this film feels like it's trying to be grounded and realistic, when in reality there are so many different points to this film that are just not based in reality at all. Like, we can't talk about some of the scenes, but there's no way you would be shooting someone up with something underwater. That's all I'm saying. Like, it's crazy. It's crazy like that. So I feel like this film suffers from a little bit of an identity crisis as to whether it does want to be more realistic or it doesn't. So Julian was great. I thought he was wonderful. He wears a red suit in this, and I thought that was pretty cool. Although I would probably never wear that in the water because I'd be paranoid. But you know, the shark. Oh man, I guess I just really had some high hopes for this. The shark is not the best CGI. It's not bad. There's some shots that I really like. There's some cinematography I really enjoy. But we did spend, 30 minutes above ground with these people, and then the whole rest of the film is spent underwater. I don't know. It feels off. It's not the worst film I've seen. It's okay. It dragged and it's repetitive, but it wasn't awful. Okay, there we go.
You're gonna stick with that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, I see all your points, and I can't argue against them. But I had a little bit of a better time with this movie than I think you guys did.
I'm glad.
I didn't mind the first bit, and I didn't find the. I mean, yes, the characters are shallow, but you gotta establish the characters, and I thought they did that. They were just meat puppets anyway. That's fine. I liked our lead guy. I forget what his name is already. What is his name?
Is that Riley? I can't
Noah. No, his name's Noah, played by Jack Parr. That was hanging out with Julian Sands, Levi. I thought I liked those two characters when they were together. Like the whole part with the two of them, discovering the ship and coming back, and there's a plot with them needing money, and I the motivations were established. I mean, there's a lot in here that's being kind of woven into introducing these characters, and the characters themselves aren't really the point. But they need to be, because as Christopher says, you don't care about them when you get down underwater. They're just, they're just like, okay, who's first? And it's there's somebody you want to go first, but it's obvious who's going to be first. Regardless, I thought that once it got into the water, I found a couple of the scenes pretty tense. There's a scene where one person is injured and they're trying to save. I think you were actually pointing out some flaws in that scene, but at the same time, trying to, regardless of whether they could do what they were doing, trying to save them or deal with that person at that point is a tense thing to go through. And I thought they captured that. And there's a scene trying to get to a boat that I liked later that I thought was fairly decent. But the sharks are subpar, but they're not way below par. They're not Sharknado kind of nonsense. I mean, I've seen shark movies that we actually like that had slightly less effective sharks. They were just maybe inserted into the film a little better. So I mean, they were, for the most part, they served their purpose. There was a shark in the water. That's a shark. It's doing a thing. It's happening. And I found the locations claustrophobic. That might be me. I don't like to be underwater. I don't like to be in things. And you know, so I thought that was effective. But the film doesn't really raise any bars. It doesn't really do anything to make it to achieve anything that they're reaching for. It simply does what it does. Some of it works, some of it doesn't. Julian Sands is awesome. In the end, it's a decent. I've seen a lot worse shark movies.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I've seen a number of better ones. But shark movies are a tough nut to crack, because it's all, you know, you got to get the shark. And
we'll see. Oh, sorry. Yeah,
and this one is on the fence of getting the shark right for me. So that makes it a little tough for me to say which way it goes. But let's get into this.
You brought up something. Yes. Yeah. Go ahead. Finish.
I was going to say, let's get into the spoilers and into bigger discussions about the movie.
Okay, you mentioned something like you've seen better shark movies with worse sharks. And see, once again, that's really about the tone of the film. Yeah, of course. When the tone of the film is obviously a little campy and a little funny, and then that's what you want to see, these over the top kind of CGI sharks, you know. But this film was really trying to be serious. I didn't feel
it was trying to be straight up serious.
Yeah. So I think that's part of what makes it more difficult to watch, because there were some moments I was like, oof, yeah.
Such as?
Well, for one, yeah, like her, I've got to find, for one, she said anesthetic. And I'm like, that's crazy that she would actually inject him with a dirty needle from that nasty water and put, I mean, I guess he's already getting it all in him. Yeah. It's like, he's getting it all in him anyway. So I guess at that point, whatever, you know,
it's last ditch. I mean, it's not, it's a desperate move.
But I just don't see that as being realistic at all. I think he would have probably passed out before that anyway, the pain, because I've passed out from pain before.
Well, and they also have what I call the Chekhov's bomb part, which is like, don't show bombs if you're not going to do anything with it later.
Oh, they do, don't they? Oh man, I forgot all about that. And I was
like, you know, I know their budget's limited, but because then I was like, oh, she's going to use the bomb, and no. But yeah, it's and I think the biggest problem, and I think at least that the Under Paris movie we watched recently, at least they gave you different areas, you know, when it came to the water areas. Here it just became like Crystal said, it becomes very repetitive. It's like, it's almost like hallways in a spaceship, you know, like an alien movie where it's just all the same. Yeah. But they keep showing, it just felt repetitive, and the shark will just like I said, the shark will go by. Oh no, more. But that's like, what is the shark's not spiked? It's like, do these sharks not bite into things? Have you ever seen what a shark does? And then I was like, thinking, well, maybe this is some kind of experiment from the 1950s or whatever. I don't know what's going. But yeah, it's very annoying, I think, because the sharks either just like conveniently just bite us a leg or a limb off, or they just cut into you, and there's no like gnawing, there's no like, and it's like, you think like the areas that they shot, at least they could put an underwater shark in there or something, like a puppet or something. And I think that's what annoyed me, because then it just felt like we're just adding it all CGI, you know. And then it became so sort of like plasticky with how they treat the shark. It took all the terror away. Now there are some really inventive. I think probably my favorite parts is when she's there, when the final girl of this film is in there alone and she's having to deal with the shark. That's when it got kind of interesting. But then it's like there's some also clumsy efforts. There's a part where the two guys are out there and the shark goes by and some kind of things fall down, but it doesn't even make sense how the thing. So it just seemed like people acting like, oh no, I'm caught, and it just looked so fake. That I was the way that was orchestrated and shot. But granted, I mean, a lot of the film is shot underwater and is shot very beautifully in parts. And how they
love the shark swimming through, even
and
though
you have
CGI.
And because you're also not only you're dealing with underwater, but you're also dealing with shadows, which is also very hard to do, especially
and they use shark shadows at that.
Yeah, so I think sometimes how they integrated the shark element worked for parts of it, but other parts of it just felt like, yeah, just move this way so we can have the CGI shark go by you.
Well, I got really annoyed when it seemed like really what just kept happening, or what kept happening, is someone going into a room on this ship and shutting the door on the shark over and over and over again. And I guess I just felt like there's got to be another way that they can escape from this thing. I don't want to poop on this film, because honestly, I feel like they tried, and I feel like there's a lot of good here. I just think that maybe just to stretch the film out, they just didn't come up with anything really creative, and that's unfortunate.
Well, no, I think with I think the biggest problem is definitely the repetition. Because they're like, oh, we need to go back here, and let's go back here again. Oh no, let's go back to here, and it's like, I think if you have the ability to build something, you can at least switch it up to where, like, okay, we moved further on this part, let's go into here, and I think that would have been much more intense, because then we'd feel the tension if like if they're having to move further into the ship or something. It would have worked a whole lot better to keep the tension going. But when it becomes repetitive, where it almost feels like I'm playing the video game, I'm playing the same, level over and over. It sucks to me. It's kind of sucks the way the storyline is going. Because you need to have like a stopping point, like we need to move from this point to that point, and it's going to take more than just knowing you have so much, oxygen in your tank. There needs to be much more to make the timeline of everything that's happening work out for the better.
Yeah, and there's some Scooby-Doo nonsense with the shark going from one door to the next down the hallway that I found a little funny, but yeah.
Well, I think that's because, for a while, since we're in spoilers, they make you think that there's only one.
Right, that's true. And find out there's more.
So the time that we find out there's more than one is when they're chasing that dude trying to swim to the boat.
Right.
Actually, that messed me up a little bit, because I was like, wait, there's the fin, but then I was like, oh, so there's got to be more than one.
Right. Well, there's a shot there's a whole bunch of them on the sands down below them but that might have been later. But regardless, they do find some air pockets, which gives them a chance to take the mask off and talk to each other. Although that would be some stale air. That'd be 80-year-old air.
That I will say, there's one moment that's like, it just made me realize it was done so much better in Deep Blue Sea.
Oh no!
Because there's the guy who's like, oh yeah, we found the way out, and he kept talking. I was like, they're trying to create this moment. I will say none of the jump scares work in this film at all. There's one, it's the worst jump scare I've seen in a very long time, when he opens the thing and there's like a skeleton that comes out. There's like, it's just stupid. Yeah. That's like a 12-year-old making a haunted house scene. That doesn't work. But yeah, so I don't know. I think the biggest problem is like when you're creating something where you're going to have to make the shark mostly CGI, and yeah, you've done a pretty good job with the shark, but if there's not as much real interaction, it's palpable when you're watching it. It just makes you think, wow, this thing's not real. And you can have all the ripped pieces on your arm or leg you want, but it's
I will say I like the appendages, the a couple times we get some legs that have been ripped off, and they were effective, I thought.
Well, I mean, I will say when his
like going,
for it to be an underwater thing, when she's trying to treat that leg, which I thought she's treating it really horribly. But when she's trying to treat that leg, it was kind of visceral and gross, and like it made me uncomfortable. But at the same time, I felt like she was just jamming it. She wasn't really doing much to it other than making him scream more.
Nope. Yeah, poor guy. All right, well, let's go ahead and wrap this up. Let's give our score 1 to 5 and pick our favorite scene. Christopher G. Moore, you're up first.
I'm going to give it middle of the water. I'll give it a 2.5, and I'm primarily giving that rating because of the underwater stuff, because they shot a lot of it with actual actors underwater, and like, I don't know how they shot it, if it's some kind of underwater sets. But I think that's very challenging for any production to do. I'm sure that's probably where a lot of their budget went. Maybe that's why they were limited in other aspects, but I think I'll give it that just based on them being able to shoot that, you know. I'm definitely not giving it for any of the acting other than Julian Sands. As for favorite scene, I mentioned it earlier. I think the most effective parts were more when we had our final girl down there. And I think there's a part where she finds this one little air hole.
And it swims by. Yes, damn.
And it's swimming towards her, and you see it swim underneath her. Yeah. That the way that shot was framed was very effective and very realistic. So I think you know, regardless of the issues sometimes with the way the shark, that was very effective and very that was probably the most intense scene for me is the way that shot was framed, where you're just like, she's up close to the camera and you see it like,
no, that was gonna be mine too. That's why I was like, man, I knew exactly what you were talking about. I was like,
yeah. There's a couple close encounters with sharks that I thought worked better than the actual shark attacks. Like when the one shark swims over the guy, I thought was pretty interesting too.
Well, to go get the other dude though, really.
Yeah. Like, well, he's after the other dude, but he just So.
As opposed to like, oh, my face.
Yeah.
What?
Scissor sharks. Crystal. Hi. What is your score and favorite scene? Oh dear. Oh dear.
I'm gonna give it 2.75. What? Oh no, what?
I was just wondering where you were gonna go with the score.
Yeah, because honestly, God, I just feel like had some things been changed up, it could have really been. I like the idea that they worked so hard on the character development, but they worked too hard on the character development, especially for characters that were just unlikable, and that's unfortunate. But I digress. Doesn't matter at this point. And so I was going to use that as my favorite scene. That Chris. Okay, so the messed up part about this one, for some reason, is it did make me go, and then it just ruined it. So one of my favorite scenes when he was like, it was him and the other person, and he was like, Riley, turn around. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my gosh. And then they turned around and there was nothing. And then slowly the shark comes, and I was like, okay. It needed to be something more intense that they turned around for. I was like, oh God. Oh, okay. So yeah, that's too bad. I mean, it was like slow too. So yeah, hit and a miss.
Hit and a miss. Hit and a miss. Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. I like that. That might be in the title. I'm a little bit more in favor of this, but not much. I'm going to do 3 Leagues Under the Sea.
Oh, good.
And my favorite scene, I did like that scene Christopher chose. I thought that was probably the cinematically the highlight of the movie. From my, I don't even know how to describe. But anyway, so I'm going to pick one. Brett, super shit Brett, with his There's a lot of problems with Brett. When he's reached the surface, he's the first one to reach the surface. He's trying to get back to the boat to tell Levi what's going on. Levi's like, trying to yell something. He's trying to figure out what Levi's trying to yell. And I think Levi's yelling shark, hurry up, get the boat or something like that.
Yeah, he's like, swim, come swim.
But so he starts swimming to the boat. And what I liked about the shot is that every once in a while, the camera's perspective would go briefly under water and you would see the shark in the distance coming, which it didn't matter about the special effects then because you just got a glimpse. So it was fine. And that idea to me, I thought was very scary, intense. And, and of course, well, something else happens to him as well. And it gets a little silly, but at the same time,
was crazy. That was crazy.
But at the same time, I thought that was a tense scene. And of all the people that were going to get it, he was the one you wanted to get.
Yeah.
It's like, you're shark food and we can't wait. Yeah, so I'm going to pick that. Another scene I'm going to mention just really quickly is they set it up to do everything right. They try, but they're just a bunch of F ups, right? But they have, the wire that is supposed to, what is it? There's an official name for it, but it's a rope to get your way back, your line. And there's a moment when it tightens up and it tightens up over that girl's leg. And for a split second, just for a short period of time, that was like, oh crap, what's going to happen? Because that could really have done some serious damage to that girl's leg.
Like Ghost Ship.
Yeah, like Ghost Ship.
Yeah.
But it snaps. But at the same time, I thought that was a really effective way to introduce the shark into their conscious, right? Even though they didn't know it was a shark yet, but they knew that something was wrong. And I thought that was effective.
Agreed.
So there you go.
Yep.
The last breath. So check it out and let us know what you think about it in the comments down below. And are you a shark movie fan? And if you are, tell us all about that. What shark movie is your favorite?
God, here we go.
I gotta keep Christopher on his toes. All right. Or on his fins. Crystal, Christopher, Bruce, thank you for joining me. This was a lot of fun.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Why is this happening?
We do practical sharks on Gruesome, okay? The CGI stuff.
The CGI sharks on Gruesome. Let's say good night.
Good night. Oh God. That's
Gruesome Magazine.